So here's another thing I wanted to touch on that ties into the video I just posted. This is something I've been realizing as I've been getting older. Not having friends, being completely friendless, not having a social life, not even having professional connections, like colleagues, a network that you can fall back on, who you can use as references, who can provide you with career opportunities. All of this puts you at a major disadvantage in life in so many ways. Having a friend, especially a close one, who you can confide in, who's there for you when the going gets tough, who you can share life experiences with, who you can just spend time with and talk to. Like, this is an invaluable thing. There's some people out there who live solitary lives and are content with it. Good for them. But I'm not that person. We need each other, right? Like, human beings evolved in tribes, in communities. We depended on one another for survival. The problem is that society now has only become increasingly alienated, isolated. It's largely a consequence of late-stage capitalism, the breakdown of it, the decline of third spaces. There's less and less opportunities, especially as you get older. You really have to go out of your way to meet people, and everyone is busy. Everyone gets busier and busier. People have shit to do, places to be. They are not as open to making friends as they were, in high school, when you're surrounded by people your age and you're seeing the same people every day. When you're an adult, you have a lot more on your table, and it's very easy to isolate yourself in modern society, to avoid people if you truly want to. It also goes without saying, being friendless is a major red flag when it comes to dating and finding a partner. Like, most women are massively turned off by that. Like, even women who don't have friends themselves, who are more on the introverted side, like, they also typically want a guy who is like more social, who has friends. I've been very isolated for most of my life. Of course, I've been working for the last 5 or so years, since I was 21 when I got my first job. But I haven't really made friends. My coworkers have never been my friends. Like, the only text messages I ever receive are from my parents, from my manager occasionally, and all of these automated texts from UPS, Amazon, EverSafe, Interact e-transfers. Yeah, and that's it. Like, I don't have someone I can just talk to and just text and say hey, what's up? Did you see that new movie? Like no, that's never been the case. It's been like this for most of my life. That's why I make these videos, right? Because it's not like I have anyone to talk to about my feelings. Yeah, I mean, this sucks. This really sucks. I don't want to keep living like this. I don't want to reach my twilight years and be totally alone. Like, if I don't off myself by that point, because that's fucking miserable, man. This is how I feel, I'm trying not to be vulgar about it, but it's like the average person is not meant to live like this, Yeah, but it's always been like this. It was far back as middle school, when me and my parents moved to a different area, and I lost most of the friends I made in elementary school. it was tough for me to assimilate, to fit in, and I began isolating myself. And from then on, there were kids I spoke to in my classes, but I was never proactive in keeping in touch with them and actually befriending them. And I regret that. I dealt with a lot of anxiety growing up, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. And yeah, there were a few social experiences I had within the last couple of years, but none of those experiences were positive or memorable. In fact, some of it was quite traumatizing. It made me reckon with my own social ineptitude. I learned a lot about myself. I learned what not to do. I speculated that I might be on the spectrum. I might have ADHD. I don't know. I'm not clinically diagnosed. But it's like a chicken or egg situation, right? Like, if I've always been this way, or is this just a consequence of the years and years of isolation that have atrophied my social skills? I don't know. But either way, I'm not around people enough to know the difference. And I want to change that. I had to renew my passport recently, and while filling out the documents, there's a section where you're supposed to provide 2 references of people who are not your family members and who you've known for more than 2 years. So typically you would use your friends as references in that instance. But I don't have any friends. So maybe your colleagues, your coworkers. Well, I don't know my coworkers enough to use them as references either. And I feel like it would be kind of weird to ask them that, because they would probably wonder, like, okay, well, why me? Like, don't you have friends? Right? So my mom ended up helping me, and she used my older half-sister's husband's mom as one reference. I haven't seen her in maybe like 15 years. And then as a second reference, she used her former boss, who had a stroke recently and can't even speak anymore. There's something a little morbid about that, like the fact that those are the only references I can use. That's not good, I've severely neglected this aspect of my life, largely because I just don't go anywhere. I don't put myself out there because I don't know how to. I don't know where to go. I don't know where you could meet people, and I guess this is a cry for help, if you want to call it that. If you've made it this far into the video, if you have any suggestions, if you have any ideas as to what adults typically do when they want to meet others, please let me know. Like, it would be greatly appreciated.